hear you're ready for your dose of reality. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Quack Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem. We're on the 10th episode now of Dear Independent Wrestling. 10 episodes now, so if you haven't been checking out the other ones, you need to check that out because it all plays into what we're going to be talking about today, and that's Promos 101.
That's right. This is the most dangerous thing and the hardest thing for a lot of people in professional wrestling. This is what we're going to cover, what you should do and what you shouldn't do when it comes to a promo.
Now, what we mean by dangerous, it's not physically dangerous, but it will do more damage to your reputation and your career if you don't pay attention to a few basics and if you do things that make you look really silly or make you difficult to work with or cause the wrong kind of heat. All of that we're going to talk about here in this episode.
And the first thing on a promo, if you're cutting a promo, whether it be a vignette or whether it be a live promo, you need to be heard. You got to make sure you're able to make sure your voice goes out there because otherwise nobody's paying attention.
All right, this is a skill that you learn. Some of you people who were in the military know you don't speak from your throat. You actually speak from your diaphragm. Let's move a little mayhem so you can see where I'm pointing at. The diaphragm, right, that spot right below the main point where all your ribs meet. You want to speak from there. You don't want to speak from here because your voice will fade and it'll crack. So make sure you talk from your sternum. That's what helps prevent or helps spread your voice out so you can be easily heard.
That's right. And another thing, when you're doing a promo, you want to practice it, especially if you're going out live. You want to know what you're talking about. Because if you don't, you're going to sound like a bumbling idiot.
Yes. You see, I always have one here behind me. Notepads. There's nothing wrong with even carrying one around in your wrestling bag. Right now we're talking about this more for the workers that have to go from show to show. Nothing wrong with carrying a note bag.
Or one of these.
And a pen. Either way is fine. I'm a little more old school. He's a little more new school. Either way are fine. There's nothing wrong with making a few notes of what you want to talk about. It helps you to focus your thoughts because when you're out there, you can't read from your notes.
And you know what a good friend of everybody's is of the promo world, that people that got to cut promos for a living? A mirror. Because you want to see how you look when you cut this promo. You want to see if you're actually showing the determination that you're trying to get out in your voice. See? Hear that? You feel that? You look at it.
And that goes back to, again, if you're not really sure about that, if you're somebody that doesn't watch a lot of movies or watch a lot of television, take some acting classes, take some theater classes. You're going to learn how to sound mean, learn how to sound scared, learn how to sound intense. Learn how to sound comforting or caring. Any of those things you may need in your promo world. So again, theater classes, acting classes will help you. And this is a great way because talking is all, in theater and talking go hand in hand.
And a big thing you want to cover in your promo. Your who, what, when, where, and why. Who am I going against? Why am I fighting him? Where is it going to be? These are the important things. And how are you going to beat him?
Yes, now that we've got the basics covered, when you go to a wrestling show, if it's your first time there, don't ask this of the promoter as we've gone over previously and what's your job description. Ask your wrestling friends, ask the manager, the ring announcer. Do they have a hard cam where they want you facing to talk because they have a video recording? Or are you allowed to focus on all sides of the ring? That's important because if they focus on the hard cam, which I'm focusing on you now, and I turn, Dr. Quack, I'm going to cut this promo on you, the hard cam can't see you and doesn't understand what you're doing.
A big tip that a lot of people use is focus on one person in the crowd. If you can get that one person to react, you will generally draw another reaction from the rest of the crowd.
Exactly. Now, if you are allowed to rotate or move around, do this as little as possible. You don't want to turn a lot or move a lot because, as you see and as I've discussed in previous things, I do this, you're focused on my pen moving, you're not focused on me. But if I'm here cutting the promo and then I'm slowly turning to focus on the next part of the crowd, and then I say a few more words and then I slowly turn again, it's not distracting to you, and you still are to the fans, and the fans still hear what you have to say. So if you are allowed to turn slowly, unless you have to turn to face like the music that comes up behind you.
And another big thing I've noticed watching promo artists in general, you have to focus on your targets. Yes, you may be looking at one person, you may be talking about your opponent, but you don't have to talk about 10 other people in your promo. It is very important that you have a basis for this promo. Why are you cutting it? Who are you cutting it against?
Exactly. Now, we went over recently about building a character. When you build a character or a gimmick, you want to figure out also, besides how your gimmick wrestles and what your gimmick thinks, you want to think about what your gimmick is going to say and why they're going to say it. If you are a good guy character, and you want to focus on the kind of things that a good guy character might say, specifically your good guy character. How does he get mad at how people cheat? How does he get mad when somebody steals a victory? Or how does he get mad when somebody gets a title shot over them? Because you can't just throw a fit if you're a good guy. If you're a bad guy, how does the bad guy get mad that the good guy got the title shot over them? These kind of things you want to think about, and that's where your mirror again comes into practice. Or again, these cameras aren't expensive. Watch yourself, record yourself practicing. You're your own best judge. The fans will help you, but you're your own best judge. If you don't like it, the fans definitely won't.
And a great way to tell a story here is reiteration. Like if I'm cutting a promo against you, I want to go, well, 3 weeks ago, you came out here and you took my manager and you took her to the back. And that's something you don't do. And I'm going to make you pay this Sunday here at the show. Do you see how that works, folks? That is a very important thing. Reiteration. We got to tell the story. Because if you get a new fan who just watched this, who just saw this yesterday, he wants to know why you guys are fighting. He's like, why aren't you guys friends? He took my manager.
Exactly, and Paul Heyman explained it better than any one of us, to include the two of us right here, could explain it. Paul Heyman said on WWE television, I always introduce myself, I always explain why I'm there, I always explain who I'm there to represent, and I'm there to explain what's going on, because WWE may be on TV every week, 3 or 4 times a week. Doesn't mean you saw it last week or 2 weeks ago. Independent shows usually run once or twice a month. Most people have forgotten the previous story. Remind them. It makes things a whole lot easier, and the people will get invested in the story if they understand it.
It's kind of like a soap opera, folks. If you keep them invested, they will keep watching. Another big thing is the inflection in your voice. You can talk low like this, but then you come a little louder. You want to be able to bring that intensity with it. You don't always want to sound like this. You're not the ultimate warrior. No. That doesn't work for everyone. That worked for him to a point, but not for everyone.
And like we said about practicing and watching yourself, intensity isn't always loudness. I've seen people who get really intense and their voice doesn't go up. They just talk to you in a menacing tone, and you get the point that they're trying to say. So you want to work on, like we said, your gimmick that you're trying to put over, your character. how does that character talk? Is he the soft-spoken guy that speaks with his actions over his words? Is he a yeller? Is he a screamer? Is he crazy? Is he a good guy? Is he fan-friendly? Does he hate the fans? All of those things, you have to figure out specifically who your character is and why they would talk that way.
It's very important to do these things, especially if you're a manager, because wrestlers, you know, they can get away without cutting a promo to a point. But managers, they have to know how to cut a promo. And a big thing being a manager when you're cutting that promo is making sure you put the guys over. That's right, I got the important one, Mr. Mayhem here. That's right, show him the bicep. Show him the bicep. See, he can crack walnuts with them. See how I'm putting him over and I'm making him look strong? That is very important. If you don't have that flamboyantness, if you don't have that energy, nobody's buying what you're saying.
Yes, and now here is one of the cardinal rules of things you do not want to do very often. You can get away with it every once in a while. The important thing is heels, especially heels. You don't want to beat up a nobody unless it matters in the story. So I'm working Dr. Quack. I'm obviously much larger than Dr. Quack is, but I'm going to say, you know, Dr. Quack, you know, I've seen you work. I've seen some titles you win. You know what, kid? I see you've got a little bit of talent over there. You know, not as much as my pinky finger, but you got some talent. So I'll have to give you your props. You've won some cruiserweight, light heavyweight titles, but you're coming for the heavyweight now. So when you come after me, you better bring your A game, because you know otherwise you're going to get C-squashed.
Exactly.
I put Dr. Quack over, put over his accomplishments, so that when I do win, or if I do win, I don't know what the promoter or booker would say, but if I'm to go over on him, I'm not beating up a nobody. I beat somebody who deserved to be in the ring. That makes me look strong, and that also makes him look like he belongs.
Exactly right. There's several things that you need to inquire when you do a promo. Know your opponent, okay? If you can bring up something that's going to make the fans pop. Like Jerry Lawler when Bret Hart called him the Burger King. That was something that made the fans pop. They were chanting, Burger King, Burger King, because of that promo, and it stuck.
Yes. And as a heel, one of the things you can also do, besides knowing what your opponent is, do a little research. Do a little research on the place you're wrestling. If you want to get what they call cheap heat, and you want to make fun of something in the town, we wrestle here in Texas. I spent most of my time in Texas. High school football is a big deal in Texas, and I'm talking big deal. They have betting on high school football. Oh, yeah. People buy season tickets who do not have children to watch high school football. I used to make fun by every time the other team won. That's instant, credible heat. And it will make your matches a whole lot easier if you focus on those little things to help get the crowd involved. If you tell the crowd, like we're here in spring, so you know what, the Spring Warriors, they're a good football team, but I saw last week Conroe beat them by 58 points, and you guys made me $5,000. Good job, guys. That will get incredible heat here.
Exactly, but the other way, the cheap pop. Mick Foley's famous for it. Right here in Houston, Texas. Yeah, I mean, you say that, and people get excited because you mentioned their town, their pride in it. It helps with the promo if you're a baby.
Yes, so these kind of things you want to focus on, but like we said, you're not always going to be talking every single time. Very few people have free license on a microphone. I had free license, but it wasn't until my 6th year in the wrestling business when I got free license with a microphone, because I finally showed to them that they could trust me. So you want to make sure you don't drop F-bombs. You don't get frustrated and say a lot of swear words. Most promoters don't, even though the kids are going to say things to you that would make sailors blush, you don't. Damn is fine, hell is fine, 1 or 2 of those, and that's it. You should figure out other ways. There are things called a thesaurus where you can learn other ways to insult a crowd or to reward and make a crowd feel better besides the basics. Use that thesaurus. It's a great tool.
Brian Pillman would actually read that on road trips, going from show to show. He would read a thesaurus That way he had big exemplary words out there and made them impactful.
Exactly. So now, one of the last things you want to do is when you cut your promo, you don't want to just do an intense face. Give them an intense face. But if you have an intense face like that and you talk a really soft promo where people can barely hear you, nobody's going to buy it. You have to make sure by looking in the mirror again or watching a video, does your face, the thing you're trying to say here, look the same as what you're saying here? If they don't, the crowd doesn't buy it.
Exactly. You can do a lot of this, but not enough of this.
Exactly. So the last thing now we want to go over, some promoters will ask you to send in little vignettes or little segments or things like that. Think about how you're going to say what you're going to say. The only difference is instead of saying it on the fly in the ring, you have time to think about it. But you also want to think about your location. So focus on making your words and your location mean something. The promo artists we work with a lot in the Voices of Honor, they think about stuff like that. If they're going to be doing a scene where they're talking about taking somebody out back and burying them in the woodshed, they're not doing it standing in front of their bathroom. Or if they're talking about relaxing in the place that everybody enjoys and right in front of a swimming pool, and then they're not in front of a swimming pool, well then they look silly. So you want to think about if you're doing a vignette, does your location match what you want to say?
Exactly. The big things is getting yourself over with that promo, getting your opponent over with that promo, getting the show over with that promo, and getting the match over with that promo.
Yes, you hear the phrase going over and getting over. We're going to explain that to you in simplest terms. When you go over means you win a match. As we all know, we're not breaking any new ground here. Wrestling is staged. It is, as we've discussed in the jobs, the booker is the one that's deciding who wins and who loses. So you're not winning the match by going over. You just went over to help push the story along. Getting over is where the crowd likes you, whether likes you in a positive way because you're a babyface and they want to cheer for you. They like you as a heel because they want to see you get beat up. Or you get over because the crowd will pay money to see you again. If you get over, or you try and get over and by driving the fans away, heels, if you say such rotten things that the people stop showing up, then you're doing it wrong. They call that X-Pac heat or lightning heat. It's a bad thing. You want to upset the crowd, but you want to set up just enough that you put over the person that's going to come beat you up, and they want to pay money to see them beat you up.
That's right. Jim Ross put this best. I don't care who wins. I don't care who loses. All I care about is every 18 inches being filled in those seats. It's the truest thing. And with promos, that's what keeps them there.
Yes, and that's why this is the toughest part of wrestling, because you could be $1 million talent, but you can't talk, nobody cares about you. So you want to think about that. I'm gonna say Tito Santana is probably one of the best examples of a guy who was a really talented man in the ring, but he couldn't talk, so really quick people stopped caring about him, and he became a jobber to the stars for many years. Yes, he made a lot of money still because he knew his role, but if you're trying to move up in the world of wrestling on the independent circuit and you can't talk and you have a great moveset, you're not going very far.
Yep, and that's our show here for today. Make sure you check out our next episode. This is going to be involving Branding 101.
Yes, we're going to be talking about how to build merchandise that's good for you, how to get your name out there, how to use social media, how to use other advertising avenues, and other things that you want to do so you gain a good reputation, and things you don't want to do so you gain a bad reputation.
That's right. And speaking of other social medias, make sure you click on the Dr. Quack podcast page on Facebook. If you are not a fan of that yet, you need to get there because we have a lot of live interviews with wrestlers all across the globe.
That's right. And if you are a pro wrestler and you've been watching our story, watching the Dear Independent Wrestling series, we would love to have you on and talk to you, because you might give us something else we forgot to discuss on this area. You know, this topics are all very broad. So if you learned something, we would love to talk to you and let your story get out there.
That's right. Well, thank you folks for tuning in. I will see you then. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem, saying thanks for following us along our journey, and we'll see you on the next show.
And we're out.